Sir, step out of the bus slowly. Hands where I can see them.
What's this about? Kids are already off. I'm done for the morning.
We have multiple parent reports and video from a following vehicle. You were texting on your phone the entire morning route. Eyes down, swerving slightly, running a stop sign near the school zone.
It was just checking messages. Nothing happened. The kids were safe. I know these roads.
Dash cam shows you blew through a stop with 38 kids on board. You're under arrest.
Come on, man. Everybody does it. Y'all.
That man you just saw, the one in the green vest, leaning against that bus like he owned it, his name is Ricardo Wright, 29 years old, 2 years on the job. The parents loved him. The kids gave him nicknames. The school gave him satisfactory reviews. And for 6 months, while up to 34 children sat in the seats behind him, Ricardo Wright was texting on his phone at 40 miles an hour. Not once, 19 times. Morning routes, afternoon routes, school zones, highway merges, rain-slicked roads. 19 documented incidents. Eyes off the road, thumb moving. Children who had no idea their lives were in the hands of a man who was busy replying to a text message. It took one parent, a field trip chaperone who almost talked herself out of it, to finally hit record. What investigators found when they pulled the in-cab footage wasn't a mistake, it was a habit. This is the story of how Ricardo Wright drove 34 children to the edge of disaster 19 times, and how a system that was supposed to protect them looked the other way every single time. Ricardo Wright was the kind of person who made a good first impression and kept it. Born August 1995 in Woodbridge, Virginia, second of 4 kids in a household that ran on discipline and early mornings. His father, Denton, drove city transit for WMATA for 22 years. Not glamorous work, not well-paid work, but Denton showed up every single day, and the family ate because of it. Ricardo grew up watching that. He understood buses the way some kids understood sports, the pre-trip walk-around, the way you hold the wheel at low speeds, the unspoken contract between a driver and the people behind him. He never romanticized it. It was just work, his father's work, and eventually, maybe, his. He graduated Garfield High in 2013 with no particular plan and followed the path of least resistance, a year and a half at Northern Virginia Community College before quietly stopping. What came next was a series of jobs that paid the bills without building anything. Warehouse work in Manassas, delivery routes for a logistics contractor out of Dale City. He wasn't lazy, he showed up, he just never landed somewhere that felt like it was going anywhere. In the spring of 2023, he saw a posting for Clover Ridge Unified School District. Bus driver, CDL training provided, $21.40 an hour to start, with benefits after 90 days. He applied on a Tuesday, he had an offer by Friday. His supervisor, Dale Pritchard, would later tell investigators he was one of the most natural hires the department had seen in years. Calm under pressure, easy with the kids, never once called out sick in 2 years. Parents flagged him by name in the district's quarterly satisfaction surveys, not to complain, but to say thank you. A few of the younger kids had started calling him Mr. Ricky. Nobody had any reason to look closer. That was the problem. The alarm went off at 5:20 every morning. Ricardo Wright didn't need it by December. His body had already adjusted, the kind of internal clock that develops when a routine runs long enough to stop feeling like a choice. He was at the yard by 6:10, pre-trip inspection, walk the exterior, check the tires, test the lights, pull the emergency exit handle in the back, sign the log. 11 minutes, start to finish. He'd gotten it down to a science. Some of the older drivers spent 20 minutes on pre-trip. Ricardo was already pulling out of the lot while they were still checking fluid levels. His route was Route 4 West, 14 stops, 3 neighborhoods, Briarwood Estates, the Annandale Crossing Apartments, and the older ranch-style streets off Maple Grove Road where the sidewalks buckled and parents stood at the curb in the dark with travel mugs and phone flashlights. He knew every stop by feel. The sharp left off Dunmore that had to be taken wide, the dip on Kellerton where the bus bottomed out if he came in too fast, the crossing apartments where the parking lot was always chaos by 7:15 and he had to ease through it with 2 wheels on the painted median. He knew the kids by name, all 34 of them at full capacity. He knew that Dominic in row 5 got carsick if the heat was too high, so he cracked the driver's window even in January. He knew that the Pettigrew twins argued every single morning, and it was better to let them sit on opposite sides. He knew that little Amara in the first row, tiny, barely clearing the seat back, always had her backpack on before the bus even stopped, ready like she couldn't wait to get where she was going. He gave fist bumps at the door, the parents waved from the curb, a few of them texted the transportation office in the fall just to say they appreciated him. By December, Ricardo Wright had driven Route 4 West for 6 months without a single incident, not a fender bender, not a complaint, not even a hard stop that rattled a backpack off a seat. The job had become a rhythm, and somewhere inside that rhythm, comfortable, predictable, proven, he had quietly decided it didn't require his full attention anymore. That was the first mistake. He just didn't know it yet. Every morning, across Fairfax County, 340 yellow buses pulled out of 7 different yards and fanned across the county like clockwork. 18,000 students, 22 schools, the whole operation running on a schedule so precise that a 3-minute delay at one stop could ripple through 4 neighborhoods by 7:30 a.m. Clover Ridge Unified's Transportation Department was, on paper, one of the most organized in Northern Virginia. They had a policy manual 94 pages long. They had a driver code of conduct. They had a safety protocol that required in-cab footage to be reviewed every quarter, every single bus, every single driver, 4 times a year.
On paper. In reality, the Transportation Department ran a staff of 4 safety coordinators responsible for reviewing footage across all 340 buses. The math never worked. It had never worked. By the time the Q2 reviews were finished, Q3 was already overdue. Footage piled up on servers that no one had time to open. The last time a driver had been flagged for phone use from a routine review was February 2023. Nearly 2 years before Ricardo Wright ever pulled his phone out on Braddock Road. The camera gap wasn't a secret. In 2022, the district's safety committee had approved a line item for AI distraction detection cameras, technology that could automatically flag a driver's eyes leaving the road for more than 2 seconds, log it, and alert a supervisor in real time. The contract was ready. The vendor was selected. Then the budget cycle tightened. The cameras were deferred to fiscal year 2023, then deferred again to 2024, then quietly removed from the capital improvement list entirely, replaced by resurfacing 3 school parking lots and upgrading cafeteria HVAC units. Nobody announced it, nobody voted against children's safety out loud. It just got deprioritized, the way things do when the consequences aren't visible yet. So the buses ran. And the drivers were trusted, and the footage sat unwatched on district servers for months at a time, storing everything, every route, every stop, every second of every shift. Including 19 mornings when Ricardo Wright's eyes weren't on the road. All of it recorded, all of it time-stamped, all of it waiting for someone to finally look. September 16th, 2024, a Tuesday. The kind of ordinary morning that doesn't announce itself as anything. Pale sky, light traffic, the smell of someone's travel coffee still hanging in the bus from the last shift. Ricardo Wright was 4 stops into Route 4 West when his phone buzzed in his shirt pocket. 6:47 a.m., Braddock Road. 23 children behind him, backpacks piled in laps, half of them still half asleep. He knew he shouldn't. He knew the policy. It was literally laminated on a card above his visor. No mobile device use while vehicle is in motion. 0 tolerance. He checked anyway. His brother Denton Jr. 2 words and a player name. Fantasy football. The draft was that weekend, and they'd been going back and forth about a running back for 3 days. He read it. His thumb moved. He typed 4 words back. The light at the Braddock-Dunmore intersection was red when he looked up. He set the phone face down on the seat beside him. 6 seconds. The light turned green and he pulled forward. Behind him, Dominic in row 5 had his forehead against the window. The Pettigrew twins were arguing in whispers about whose turn it was with the shared Nintendo. Little Amara had her backpack already zipped, watching the road like she always did. None of them noticed. Nobody honked. Nobody swerved. No one on the sidewalk looked up. The bus rolled through the intersection the same way it did every Tuesday, smooth and unremarkable, and Ricardo Wright merged back into traffic and kept driving. The in-cab camera above the windshield had recorded all 6 seconds in full. The downward tilt of his head, the motion of his thumb, the empty road ahead with no one watching it. The timestamp burned into the lower corner of the frame, 064723. That file joined 40 others on a district server in a building Ricardo Wright had never visited. No alert fired, no supervisor was notified. The footage sat in a folder labeled Route 4W_Sept 2024 and waited. Ricardo Wright pulled into Jefferson Elementary at 7:51 a.m., 4 minutes ahead of schedule. He gave fist bumps at the door. He watched the last kid disappear through the front entrance. He didn't think about the text again, not once, not before the next morning, and not for the 6 months that followed. September became October. October became November. The phone came out and went back down, and the bus kept moving and nothing happened. And that was the whole problem. By the time the in-cam footage would have caught incident number 2, October 3rd, afternoon route, 31 miles per hour on Kellerton Drive, 5 seconds, Ricardo Wright had already stopped thinking of it as a risk. It had become the same category of thing as adjusting the mirror or cracking the window for Dominic. A small motion, automatic, unremarkable. 7 times on morning routes, 12 on afternoon routes. The in-cab camera above the windshield recorded all of it with complete indifference. The tilt of his head, the glow of the screen against his face, the empty road ahead unguarded. Speeds ranging from 28 to 44 miles per hour, duration from 4 seconds to 11. 19 timestamps burning into 19 files that sat untouched on a district server while the weeks dissolved into each other. 2 of those 19 incidents happened within 200 feet of school crosswalks. The footage shows the crossing guards, it shows the children mid-street, and it shows Ricardo Wright somewhere else entirely. One happened on Interstate 66 merge ramp on a Friday afternoon in November. 31 children aboard. The bus nosing into 55-mile-per-hour traffic, Wright's left hand holding his phone and his right hand on the wheel. 11 seconds. The merge completed clean. The driver behind him never knew. And then there was January 14th, a winter weather advisory. 7:21 a.m. Roads still damp from overnight freezing rain, the kind of wet black pavement that looks dry until you touch the brakes. Wright pulled his phone out on Maple Grove Road at 34 miles per hour, where the sidewalks buckled and parents stood in the dark with their children. 8 seconds. Each time, it ended the same way. The phone went back down. The bus rolled on. The children arrived at Jefferson Elementary with their backpacks and their lunchboxes and no idea. The parents drove to work. The crossing guards went home. The timestamps piled up in the dark of a server room no one was watching. 19 times, Ricardo Wright looked away from the road. 19 times, the road forgave him. It couldn't do that forever. Beverly Hartman had not ridden a school bus since she was 11 years old. She remembered it being louder. The seats were the same, green vinyl, cold in the morning, that particular smell of rubber and old metal that apparently never changes. She settled into the third row, window side, coat in her lap, coffee she'd already finished still warm in her hand from habit. It was a field trip morning, 27 children. She was one of 3 chaperones. Her daughter, Nadia, 8 years old, was 4 rows back with her best friend, already giggling about something Beverly couldn't hear. The bus pulled out of Jefferson Elementary's lot at 6:51 a.m., Ricardo Wright at the wheel. Green vest, easy posture, one hand resting on the wheel the way you do when you've made a drive so many times it stopped requiring thought. It was 6:58 when she noticed his left hand. The phone came up the way habits do, not dramatically, not furtively, just a small, familiar motion, like reaching for a coffee cup. His thumb moved. His eyes went down. Route 7, 4 lanes, morning traffic building on either side. Beverly glanced at her GPS app, 42 miles per hour. 1 second. She told herself she was probably overreacting. 2. Maybe it was a work app. 3. His eyes were still down. 5. She felt something cold move through her that had nothing to do with the temperature. 7. 42 miles per hour, and no one was watching the road. 9. She looked back at the children behind her, 27 of them, backpacks, juice boxes, Nadia laughing at something with both hands over her mouth. 11. Then the phone went down. The bus rolled on. Nothing happened. Her hands were shaking when she opened her camera. She almost closed it. The thought moved through her fast and reasonable. He put it away. Nothing happened. You don't want to be that parent. She hovered. The bus kept moving. She thought about Nadia, both hands over her mouth, laughing, completely unaware. She pressed record. For the remaining 9 minutes to Jefferson Elementary, she held her phone steady and didn't say a word. When the bus stopped and the children flooded the aisle, she stayed in her seat. She watched Ricardo Wright give fist bumps at the door. She watched until the last child was through the entrance. Then she looked down at her phone, at the footage, and made a decision she almost didn't make. Beverly Hartman submitted the recording at 8:17 a.m. on March 9th, a Sunday morning, which meant it sat in the district's transportation safety inbox for 2 hours before anyone opened it. The automated response came back instantly. "Thank you for your submission. A safety coordinator will follow up within 2 business days." It didn't take 2 business days. Deputy Caleb Fontaine had the file on his desk by 10:30. He watched it once straight through without stopping. Then he watched it again, this time with a notepad. 42 miles per hour, 11 seconds, 27 children. He wrote the numbers down like they needed to be made real on paper before he could fully believe them. Then he walked to the transportation office and asked for Ricardo Wright's in-cab archive. The first clip loaded in 40 seconds. September 16th, Braddock Road. 6 seconds. Eyes down. The light ahead, red, then green. He moved to the next file. October 3rd, Kellerton Drive. 5 seconds. He pulled the third. The fourth came up before he'd finished watching the third. He kept going, date after date, route after route. The same downward tilt of the head, the same motion of the thumb. The road ahead empty and unwatched. He stopped logging them individually somewhere around the 12th clip. He just sat there for a moment in the quiet of the transport office, the footage still playing on the monitor, and then he picked up his phone and called his supervisor. He didn't say much, just, "I need you to come see this. Bring legal." By 3 p.m., the district's legal team had been notified. By 4:15, they had confirmed what Fontaine already knew. 19 separate incidents, all time-stamped, all unambiguous, all sitting on a server the district owned and hadn't looked at in months. By 5 p.m., Ricardo Wright was placed on administrative leave effective immediately, pending investigation. He found out through a phone call that lasted less than 90 seconds. No details, no explanation, just administrative leave, do not report tomorrow. At 5:47 p.m., he texted his supervisor a single line, "What's going on?" The message sat on red until morning. The 3 gray dots appeared once, briefly, around 6 p.m., then disappeared.
No one answered him that night. Ricardo Wright showed up at 9 a.m., looking like a man who had already decided the meeting was nothing. He'd dressed for it the same way he'd dressed for every shift: green vest, white shirt, ID badge. He parked in the driver's lot out of habit, walked the same path he walked every morning, and came around the front of his bus to find Deputy Fontaine and District Safety Director Lorne Ashby standing in the parking lot waiting for him. Not inside, not in a conference room, out here, in the open, Fontaine's body camera already recording. Wright leaned against the nose of the bus, easy posture, one hand on the headlight housing, the same way he'd been standing when the confrontation footage was shot 2 days earlier. He said good morning like it was 1. Fontaine didn't return it. He pulled out his tablet and played the first clip without preamble. September 16th, Braddock Road, 6 seconds. Wright watched it, said nothing. The second clip, November, the interstate merge ramp, 31 children, 11 seconds. Wright's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly.
The cameras malfunction. The district knows that. It's been a documented issue for 2 years. Fontaine let that sit for exactly 1 beat. Then he reached into the folder under his arm and placed a printed log on the hood of the bus. 19 rows. Date, time, route, duration, speed. Every incident in order, clean and numbered, the way evidence looks when someone has had all night to organize it carefully. Wright looked at the paper. He didn't pick it up. The silence that followed was the longest moment of the whole morning. Somewhere across the lot, a crossing guard was directing traffic. Kids were filing through the front entrance. The ordinary world was happening 20 feet away, completely indifferent. I didn't think anything was going to happen. Ashby looked away when he said it. Fontaine didn't move. Wright was escorted off school property at 9:23 a.m. His CDL was suspended before noon. Charges were filed the following morning, 19 counts of reckless endangerment of a minor, the paperwork thick enough that the clerk had to restaple it twice. His father, Denton, posted the $75,000 bond by mid-afternoon. They drove home together without speaking. Neither of them called the press. Neither of them had anything to say that the footage hadn't already said for them. The guilty plea came on a Thursday morning in August 2025, 11 of 19 charges. The remaining 8 dropped in a plea agreement that took 4 months to negotiate and 30 seconds to read aloud in a courtroom that was not full. Ricardo Wright stood with his hands clasped in front of him and said the words the court required. The judge sentenced him to 14 months in Fairfax County Jail, 5 years probation, lifetime ban from holding a commercial driver's license anywhere in the United States. He was let out through a side door. His father, Denton, was in the 3rd row. He didn't watch his son leave. 3 families had filed civil suits by then. The district settled for a combined $870,000, no admission of liability, the legal language doing its careful work of separating consequence from fault. As part of the agreement, Clover Ridge Unified committed to monthly in-cab reviews, immediate termination for any documented phone use, and an anonymous tip line for parents and students. The school board voted unanimously to approve the $2.3 million AI monitoring camera contract, the same contract they had deferred twice and quietly buried in 2024. It passed without debate. Nobody mentioned the parking lot resurfacing. Beverly Hartman did not attend the sentencing. She had said what she needed to say 5 months earlier in a single statement to a local reporter, standing in her driveway in the early evening with her daughter visible through the kitchen window behind her. I almost talked myself out of it. I kept thinking maybe it's one time, but I thought about my daughter sitting 6 rows behind him, and I hit record. I just want other parents to know if you see something, you are not overreacting. You are the system working the way it was supposed to. She never gave another interview. Ricardo Wright will be eligible for release before the children he drove complete 5th grade. He will have served less time than it takes a kindergartner to learn to read. The 19 clips were entered into the public record and distributed to 3 Virginia school districts for use in driver safety training. They play at the start of every new driver orientation now. The timestamp, the downward tilt of the head, the road ahead, unwatched. At the bottom of the training video, in plain text, no title, no caption, Ricardo Wright, Fairfax County, March 2025. As always, I'll see you in the next one.